My ex-girlfriend invited me to her wedding, then quietly asked, "Will you take me home?" She found me by the drink table, still wearing her veil, and whispered for words that undid 3 years of moving on. "Will you take me home?" Not a joke, not champagne talking. Her eyes were dead serious, and her hands were shaking around a glass of lemonade she hadn't touched. That's the kind of sentence a man doesn't forget, no matter how hard he tries. My name is Ryan. I'm 34. I fix HVAC systems for a living, and up until that Saturday in June, I thought I'd made peace with losing Claire Bennett. We dated for 2 years back in our late 20s. It ended quietly, the way most real things end, not with a fight, but with two people slowly drifting into different rooms of the same house, until one of them finally admits the house isn't working anymore. She left for a job in Charlotte. I stayed in Hendersonville and fixed furnaces. We hadn't spoken in 3 years, not really. A birthday text here and there. Nothing that counted. Then the invitation showed up in April. Cream-colored envelope, her handwriting on the front, my name spelled the way only she ever spelled it, with a little curl on the Y. Inside was a wedding invitation. Claire Bennett and Tyler Marsh. June 14th. I stood in my kitchen holding that card for a long time, trying to figure out what kind of person invites an ex to their wedding. I decided it meant she was fine. Completely fine. So fine she didn't even think of me as anything but an old friend worth a seat at table 9. I almost didn't go. I told myself I had a job that Saturday, a busted compressor out on Route 9 that could wait until Monday, sure, but it gave me an excuse if I needed one. In the end, I put on the one suit I own that still fits right and drove out to the venue, a renovated barn with string lights and a gravel lot already half full of cars I didn't recognize. The ceremony was fine. Claire looked the way she always looked when she was trying too hard to seem calm. Back straight, chin up, smile locked into place like a woman walking a tightrope in heels. Tyler stood at the altar in a fitted gray suit, the kind of guy who probably owned 3 different colognes and used all of them strategically. He had that salesman smile, the one that never quite reaches past the teeth. I sat in the back. I clapped when I was supposed to clap. I told myself the tightness in my chest was just allergies from the hay bales stacked along the barn walls. The reception was where things started to feel strange. Not wrong yet, just strange. Claire found me near the dessert table about an hour in, still in her dress, veil pushed back, holding a glass of lemonade she never once drank from. "You came," she said. "You invited me. I didn't think you'd actually show up." She said it like she meant it as a compliment, but something underneath the words didn't sit right. We talked for a few minutes about nothing. My work. Her new job in Charlotte. The weather. God help me. We talked about the weather at her own wedding. The whole time, her eyes kept drifting toward the head table, toward Tyler, who was laughing loud with a cluster of groomsmen, arms slung around a woman who was decidedly not his new wife. "You okay?" I asked, because I'd known her long enough to read the difference between a nervous bride and a scared one. "I'm great," she said, too fast, too bright. Then the band started up again, and she excused herself to go dance with her new husband, and I told myself that was that. I'd said my hello. I could leave in 20 minutes and never think about any of it again. I almost made it out the door. I was standing by the gravel lot, keys already in my hand, when she came out the side entrance still in her dress, veil gone now, mascara smudged just slightly at the corner of one eye. She looked around like she was checking who might be watching, and then she walked straight up to me. "Ryan." Her voice had dropped low, private, nothing like the bright wedding day voice from an hour before. "Hey, you all right?" She looked back at the barn, at the lights and the noise spilling out of it, then back at me. And that's when she said it. "Will you take me home?" I stood there for a solid 3 seconds, just staring at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. Her hands were trembling around that lemonade glass. Her jaw was tight in a way I recognized from every fight we'd ever had. The look she got right before she said something true. "Claire, you got married 2 hours ago." "I know what I did." Her voice cracked right down the middle. "I know exactly what I did, and I need you to take me home before I have to go on that honeymoon." I set my keys back in my pocket slow, like moving too fast might spook her. "What happened?" She glanced toward the barn again. Through the open doors I could see Tyler, still laughing, still with his arm around that same woman, and something about the easy familiarity of it made my stomach turn cold. "I found messages on his phone 2 weeks ago," she said. "I told myself it was old. I told myself it was before us. I told everyone I loved him enough to not make a scene at my own wedding. And I have spent the last 2 hours smiling for 150 people while the man I just married keeps his hand on another woman's back like it's nothing." I felt something harden in my chest, the kind of anger that doesn't show on your face right away but sits low and steady, waiting. "Does he know you saw?" "No." She wiped under her eye fast, angry at the tear more than sad about it. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do, Ryan. I just knew I couldn't be in that room for one more minute. And you were the only person out here who wouldn't ask me 100 questions I don't have answers to yet." I looked at her standing there in a wedding dress in a gravel parking lot, and every smart thing I'd ever told myself about staying out of her life evaporated on the spot. "Get in the truck," I said. She didn't argue. She climbed into the passenger seat, dress bunched up around her, veil forgotten somewhere back in the barn, and I pulled out onto the road before anybody noticed the bride was missing. We drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. Rolling hills, the sun starting to lean west, her hands folded tight in her lap, like she was holding herself together by force of will. Finally, she spoke. "You probably think I'm a coward. I think you're a woman who just found out on her wedding day that the man she married is still lying to her. That's not cowardice. That's survival." She turned to look at me. "You always did that. Made things sound simple when they weren't." "They're usually simpler than we make them," I said. "People just don't want to admit the simple answer, because the simple answer means doing something hard." She was quiet a long time after that, watching the fields go by, the fading gold light catching the edge of her veil where it lay crumpled in her lap. She must have grabbed it on her way out without even thinking. "Where am I supposed to go?" she finally asked. "I gave up my apartment. Everything's at Tyler's place now. You can stay at my place tonight," I said, and I meant it exactly the way it sounded, nothing more, nothing less. "Guest room's got a bed nobody's used since my mother visited 2 Christmases ago. Tomorrow you figure out the rest." She let out a breath that sounded like the first real one she'd taken all day. "Why are you being this decent to me? I just left you standing at a wedding I invited you to and asked you to drive me away from my own husband." "Because decent doesn't have an expiration date," I said. "Even if we didn't work out, that doesn't mean I stop being the guy who shows up when it matters." She didn't say anything to that. She just reached over and rested her hand on the console between us, not quite touching mine, but close enough that I could feel the warmth of it the rest of the drive home. My house was quiet and dark when we pulled in. I gave her one of my old t-shirts to sleep in, since obviously nobody packs a change of clothes for a wedding they don't expect to run from. She stood in my kitchen in a wedding dress unzipped halfway down the back because she couldn't reach the rest, and asked if I could help, and I did, careful, not making it weird, both of us pretending my hands weren't shaking a little the whole time. She came out 20 minutes later in my old shirt, hair down, face washed clean of makeup, looking more like the Claire I remembered than the bride from that afternoon. We sat on my back porch with 2 mugs of tea neither of us really wanted, just something to hold. "I keep thinking about how easy it would have been to just stay in there," she said. "Smile through the whole reception. Go on the honeymoon. Pretend for another 6 months before it all came apart anyway. But you didn't." "No." She looked over at me. I walked outside, and the first person I thought to find was you. That has to mean something, right? I didn't answer right away, because the honest answer felt too big for a back porch on the worst day of her life. It means something, I finally said. We don't have to figure out what tonight. She nodded slowly, like that was the right amount of truth for right now. We sat there until the tea went cold and the stars came out over the tree line. And for the first time in 3 years, the quiet between us didn't feel like distance. It felt like two people finally being honest in the same room again. The next morning, she called Tyler. I stood in my kitchen and listened to her voice go steady and clear as she told him exactly what she'd seen, exactly what she knew, and exactly what she was done pretending she didn't. It wasn't a scene. It wasn't yelling. It was worse for him than yelling would have been, because it was calm. When she hung up, she stood there a moment with the phone still in her hand. "Annulment," she said. He didn't even try to argue. "How do you feel?" She thought about it. Really thought. The way she used to when a question actually mattered to her. "Lighter," she said. Terrified, but lighter. She stayed a few more days while she sorted out her apartment situation, and those days turned into something neither of us planned or rushed. We didn't talk about what we were. We just kept showing up for each other the way we used to, before life got complicated and pride got in the way. One evening on that same back porch, she looked over at me and said the thing neither of us had said yet. "I think I made a mistake 3 years ago. Not marrying Tyler. That one's obvious. I mean us. I think I let something good walk out the door because I was scared of how much it mattered." I didn't have a clever answer for that. I just reached over and took her hand, the way I should have done a long time before any of this happened, and told her we didn't have to get it right the first time to get it right eventually. We're taking it slow. No rings, no rush, no promises bigger than we're ready to keep. But most mornings now, there's a second mug in my kitchen sink, and most nights, that same porch has two people on it instead of one, watching the same stars, finally saying what they mean. Would you have driven her home that night, or told her to go back inside and face the music? Do you think some people are worth a second chance, even after everything that happened in between? Let me know in the comments. I read every one. If this one hit you somewhere, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who still believes in second chances. I'll see you in the next story.